Hello and welcome. Today we've got Mitchell Gerber, and we are going to be discussing the CCP's organ harvesting. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview, unless, of course, myself and Mitchell can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship. Mitchell Gerber, thank you for joining me. How are you and what have you been up to?
Wow, I'm great, Nick. Thanks for letting me come on your show for part two of something that I've been on the front lines close to the Chinese border for the last at least 3 or 4 years exposing. We're getting close to serious exposure. The Chinese Communist Party, they're cornered rats on a sinking ship, as well as their Western minions who have colluded with this mass murdering regime, and they're about to be exposed. I mean, they cannot run for much longer. Like I said, they're cornered rats on a sinking ship with no place to go and no place to hide. And yeah, we've been exposing them. Like I said, risking my life on the front lines. I'm walking the walk, not just talking it, close to the Chinese border. And I'm grateful to be on your show to share more about this new form of evil that the world is really going to be shocked about when they found out how intricate, how detailed, and how large this state-sanctioned murder really is.
Absolutely. Now, I am aware that there are videos that you want to share with the viewers and I. But first, I wanted to ask you, can you tell us some, what type of things that supports, why you are saying that they are being cornered and it's slowly coming out and they're getting caught? What are those reasons that you believe that?
Because of the insurmountable amount of evidence and the amount of evidence that connects the Chinese Communist Party to diabolical murder. I mean, as well as your awake audience, and I take my hat off to your amazing audience because the red pill is very deep with them, as it is with you and me, in terms of discernment, in terms of truth, and in terms of understanding what really is going on behind the red veil of China and the globalist cabal. And with the exposure of this new form of evil, namely the forced organ harvesting, the 52 pieces of evidence, and the amount of documentaries and irrefutable reports that are coming out from not only the main investigators, and I have a clip of them when I brought them as a coalition to in front of the British Parliament to testify. But we also have, just insurmountable evidence around the world and the documentaries. And this is really going to blow the lid off this new form of evil. And a lot of people think, Nick, before we get into this presentation, that this is some kidney in the bathtub story, or yeah, it's been done before. Sure, ISIS did it. There have been many people around the world that have been doing this forced organ harvesting, but there has been no other regime on the face of the earth like the Chinese Communist Party that has state-sanctioned, kill to order, on demand, forced organ harvesting, where they are taking hundreds and thousands of their innocent civilians, namely the Falun Gong, the Uyghur Muslims, the House Christians, and the Tibetans, just rounding them up by the Chinese military and then cutting out their organs while alive, while the blood is flowing, and then selling their organs as the healthiest organs in the world on a kill-to-order, on-demand basis between 2 and 3 weeks, reducing waiting times for these organs of 3 to 4 to 5 to even 8 years for kidneys, livers, and hearts to a matter of days, and then fueling a multi-billion-dollar global enterprise in bed with the Western politicians, and we do have the names. And this has been going on for the last 25 years. So yeah, everything is about to pop, really, because they cannot hold on to this misconception, manipulation, and deception any longer.
Who do you think is going to catch them out?
Well, hopefully, I've been on the front lines for 25, almost 22 years, and I truly hope that the mainstream media, which are still under the collusion or under the direction of the Chinese Communist Party, a lot of them, but hopefully more people will come to the aid. I mean, God bless you for allowing me to come and share this with the world. And I mean, there's there's books about this. There's been Chinese tribunals about this. Many people are now waking up and learning about the ethnic cleansing of the Uyghur Muslims. They've known full on about the Free Tibet movement with the Dalai Lama and the House Christians, but not many people have come to understand and are truly aware about the largest spiritual movement in China, namely the Falun Gong. But again, Nick, it's truly disappointing, honestly, to see the world leaders, the multinational corporations, the criminal journalists, fake news media, all colluding with the Chinese Communist Party for money, power, and political positioning. And that's unfortunate, because I've learned long ago, as I've been on the front lines for 20 years, extinction before a loss of profit. However, the kind-hearted people that I am calling on in support are your audience, are people like you who are incredibly courageous as well, because we're literally fighting up against a massive globalist cabal and a mass murdering regime that has the second largest military, the second largest economy, the largest population. Their evil claws in the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the governing bodies, the CDC, the FDA. Hell, the Chinese Communist Party is controlling the anti-Christ Pfizer. And we all know that 70 members of the Chinese Communist Party are on the board of Pfizer. And based on the document, and I'd love to share, if I may, the document in a moment, the CCP's document was leaked that over 1.95 to 2 million Chinese Communist Party loyalists and spies, including agents, have infiltrated into many, many governments, multinational corporations, and banking firms like HSBC, Rolls-Royce, CNN, MSNBC, and the British, the UK, and the American governments as well. So because of that, we have an extremely hard time to expose this. But, we don't give up and we don't give in, and we try to expose as much as we can.
Absolutely. Now, if you'd like to please go ahead and show us the videos, I'd be very grateful.
Yes, I think a clip shows a thousand words in terms of proof and evidence. So the first thing I want to share with people is what Falun Gong is, why this is so important to understand, because this particular practice became the number one practice in China, basically. These are the exercises, and I'll share them with you just briefly. It's a slow-moving exercise, very peaceful, very relaxed. These are the 5 exercises that they are demonstrating. And it's from all walks of life. And as you'll hear in a moment, as I showed you, this is ancient Chinese spiritual meditation.
Falun Dafa, also known as Falun Gong, is an advanced self-cultivation practice that improves mental and physical wellness through physical exercises and the development of one's character. In China, cultivation practices have a history of thousands of years and form the spiritual foundation of Chinese civilization. In 1992, Falun Dafa was introduced to the public by Master Li Hongzhi. The practice quickly spread because of its profound principles and proven health benefits. By 1999, with over 100 million practitioners,
100 million people in China, more than the number of Chinese Communist Party membership or members, that was 60 million. So the Falun Gong outnumbered the Chinese Communist Party by 30 million people. That already showed that the Chinese Communist Party was extremely threatened by the slow-moving exercise, very easy, very relaxed, nothing political, and nothing cultish. I'm a Jewish investigative reporter, Nick, and I've been on this case for a long time. And this is just a very peaceful practice. Mr. Li Hongzhi, the founder, started to teach these exercises in 1992. The principles are very simple: truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. Universal principles accepted in Judaism, Catholicism, Protestantism, Buddhism, Taoism. But many people, as your audience can go and read at faluninfo.net, they were initially drawn to Falun Gong because of the healing effects. And it's very straightforward. It's not cultish. Mr. Lee actually discouraged the fanaticism that practitioners of other schools of thought, or Qigong schools as it's called in China, so often declare or dedicate to their masters. But they just encouraged people who practice this to become a better person. However, because Falun Gong grew to become the largest spiritual movement in China, and the stark ideology contrast where Falun Gong, Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism teaches, even Tibetan Buddhism, even yoga teaches truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, to be kind, to become a better person, to consider others in business, in love, in anything you do. This was a threat to the Chinese Communist Party's control. I live under communism. I've seen clearly that you have no gun rights, you have no private property. This is a police state. Even the tweets and the Facebook messages have to go through a central command in order to filter out and to be edited in order to not disturb the Central Party Committee. So when Falun Gong became the largest spiritual movement in China, it was outlawed by the Chinese government. China's Communist Party that controls the government, the Chinese people, and China for the last 100 years, because it didn't like the number of people practicing and the amount of people practicing the spiritual movement that they couldn't control, particularly the former Chinese Communist Party member, President Jiang Zemin. And if I may, Nick, I'd like to take your viewers and your listeners into a little bit of a deeper journey of why this was persecuted and then organ harvested these people while alive for the last 20 years or 25 years.
So you're saying that the members of these of the people that were part of Falun Gong were harvested themselves?
By the Chinese Communist Party, yes. They were first demonized as some evil, sinister cult, that they were evil and that they should be stopped because they were incredibly evil people. This is the demonization of the spiritual group, that they were some kind of CIA-backed cult that needed to be eradicated. The Chinese Communist Party basically set 5 people on fire, and a little 12-year-old girl and her mother forced them to set themselves on fire in Tiananmen Square in 2001. And that severely poisoned the minds of the Chinese people, saying that these Falun Gong practitioners are cult members, they kill themselves, they're evil. And under communism, when you are forcefully brainwashed, the KGB did a study in the 1960s. Then when a victim is constantly brainwashed 24 hours on mainstream media and have no other way to find the truth out because it's completely controlled, in 2 weeks you'll have them completely brainwashed and a slave to your kind of thinking. And anything else outside of that narrative will be instantly rejected, demonized, and attacked. So when Falun Gong was demonized in such an extent that 1/4 of China's gross domestic profit, Nick, were used to eradicate Falun Gong, demonize them, and then use their organs as raw materials, this had to be exposed, and this is why I'm exposing it. And what I'm about to show you is from the award-winning documentary Hard to Believe, and I'll share the links later before we leave with the audience. They can go see it. This is an 18 award-winning documentary. It also won the famous Peabody Award for journalism, and this is created from Emmy Award producers from Swoop Films. But without further ado, if I can play it, maybe I'm sure your listeners will find more about what is going on by watching.
Please do.
Okay, here we go.
One of the worst crimes in history began taking place in hospitals throughout the country as organ transplants suddenly began to skyrocket.
We've been asked to investigate allegations that there has been harvesting of organs of Falun Gong in China. Our bottom line conclusion, after considering everything as best we could, was that the allegations are true.
I began conducting comprehensive interviews with medical professionals, Chinese law enforcement personnel, and over 50 refugees from the Laogai system. But I estimate that 65,000 Falun Gong were murdered for their organs from 2000 to 2008.
Essentially what organ harvesting means is they're taking Falun Gong practitioners literally like cattle, holding them in prison camps, testing their blood and other vital organs, and when someone comes into the country that needs a heart, a liver, a kidney, they find a match, they take the Falun Gong practitioner, extract their organs, of course killing them in the process.
people who are expecting this to sort of just be solved naturally by all we have to do is sit back and they'll fix it, this is wrong. The West has to take a role. And the one role the West can do is say, these are our values. We cannot go beyond this. There are certain lines we can't cross. This is a red line. That's an absolute red line.
Enver Tohti, the surgeon turned bus driver, says it's been 20 years since he removed the organs from that live prisoner. It remains a mystery why so few people have ever heard about the thing he says he cannot forget.
This is my experience. This is a real true story. If you keep silence, this tragedy will continue. And people, they just don't want to touch this evil. Because if you touch this evil, maybe at the end of the day, you may not be able to tackle this the consequences. That is my guess.
And as you can see, Nick, those were the main investigators, and they confirmed the allegations of forced live organ harvesting in 2006. Now, I didn't know about this. We didn't know about the organ harvesting. We only knew about the brutal persecution of the Falun Gong and over 100 torture methods that the Chinese Communist Party used. We must understand this is a declaration of war against an innocent spiritual movement, namely the Falun Gong. And you know what's very discouraging to me? For over 20 years, I've dedicated all my resources, my spirit, my mind, my body, my blood, sweat, and tears, and my life on the front lines with all the assassination attempts that I've been involved with, child trafficking, certain child trafficking rings that I've had to go on and rescue certain children. I can tell you about that. But meeting all these people and talking to me, and they asked me, the special ops, the world leaders, the government officials, the lawyers, the doctors, Mitch, why doesn't anybody know about this? So I took it upon myself, Nick, to contact you and others, Steve Bannon, other Stu Peters, and Alex Jones, and so many other people that I've tried to get on, Charlie Ward. And you guys, you particularly, have allowed me a platform to expose this to your people. And hopefully people are listening out there, lawyers, doctors, other podcast hosts, world leaders, because you attract a lot of wonderful people and trained people and powerful people, that they will listen to this message and say, wow, Mitch, we need to do something about this. Because again, we know about the ethnic cleansing of the Uyghur Muslims. We know about Xinjiang with the Uyghur Muslims, 2 million up to 2 million in concentration camps. This is all being exposed now, as well as the house Christians and the Tibetans. But many people still don't understand, to my dismay, the investigators' hard work, that the Falun Gong are the ones that are 95% of the organs are coming from.
So we understand that Falun Gong is a spiritual, high vibrational type of practice, and it's a very it's very obvious that the cabal or the CCP, they have many names. They don't like this type of practice because it's a threat to their lower frequency. So I see it as everything being energy. Now let's speak about solutions.
Okay.
Is there something else you wanted to show us?
I would like to show you. Yeah, I've got a couple more clips because I know we haven't got much time. But the solutions you would like to hear. Well,
please let's go with this. Let's go with the videos first, and then we can speak about the solutions at the end.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the solutions is awareness. That's the main solution, because we can't go to war with China. But I would love to show your listeners as well about the coalition at the child trafficking court in London. I've got a clip as well, just to share with you that one of the solutions is the awareness, because once people learn about this, become aware and recognize that this is going on, then even more of a solution can be done to stop this. But what I'm about to show you is another clip from the award-winning documentary Hard to Believe, how Falun Gong practitioners are rounded up, and the audience at the end are going to actually listen to a live recording of a doctor, because there have been over 17 conversations around 2017, 2018. Now there's many more. there's hundreds of investigative conversations that have been taped of investigators disguising themselves as donors, not donors, of patients. They are looking for hearts, particularly livers and hearts from Falun Gong practitioners, and are calling the medical associations, the military hospitals, between 2,000 to 3,000 hospitals, and asking and talking to the doctors directly. And the doctors are like, yeah, sure, no problem. We have quality assured organs. You can just pick them out of a tank, as if you're in a grotesque restaurant, picking out a lobster out of a tank or a wet market and cutting it open right there and then while it's alive. So without further ado, if I can play.
Please do.
Okay, here we go, guys.
By 2000, Falun Gong practitioners were disappearing into labor camps in mass numbers. At the same time, Chinese hospitals began promoting their organ transplant expertise.
I'm David Matus, and with me is David Kilgore. We've been asked to investigate allegations that there has been harvesting of organs of Falun Gong in China. David Kilgore is a former member of parliament and former cabinet minister for Asia Pacific, and I'm a Winnipeg lawyer doing immigration, refugee, and international human rights law in Winnipeg. And we have now done our investigation, and we're producing this report. And I didn't know whether it was true or not, and so my task initially was to try to figure out a way of approaching the issue so that I could either prove it or disprove it and not just walk away and say, I don't know.
The number of executions in China varied widely depending on who was counting. But Matus says no matter which number he used, the number of executions and the number of organs didn't add up.
The transplant volumes increased substantially after the persecution of Falun Gong began. And I mean, there's a lot of other evidence, but the most likely explanation for the increase is the Falun Gong. We pursued every investigative trail we could find. In the report, you will see that there are 18 different avenues of proof and disproof we considered and evaluated. Our bottom line conclusion, after considering everything as best we could, was that the allegations are true. We believe them to be true, that this harvesting is indeed happening.
Matus says what made Falun Gong organs especially attractive was the practitioners' healthy lifestyle. They do not drink or smoke. On many of the recordings of phone calls made to more than 100 Chinese hospitals, doctors assure callers that transplant organs are from healthy Falun Gong practitioners.
都是那种健康的法轮功是吧？健康的法轮功。对，看听说学得好的才能做完，因为这种东西做了保证质量的。那是都要像你们都要做监狱去自己去挑选是吧？对，肯定。
See, they'll just pick them out. And this is a live recording of a doctor saying, we'll just pick them out as if it's a lobster out of a tank. So.
Wow. Do you have any, do you have more videos?
I do. If I may, if you'd like me to share.
Please.
This is one over here, Nick, and this is the most important about the visuals. I'm a visual learner, so I like facts and I like figures, and particularly I like to testify in front of the skeptics because this is very important. This is Deliberation, which you're so graciously allowing me to share, is for the skeptics, because when you can win the skeptics, you can win the case. Because they will question everything until they confirm the allegations are true. Now, what I want to share with you, let me share with you, this is a clip from the United Nations, from the China Tribunal. And then I'll share with you my coalition that I brought to London. So we cannot refute this evidence. We can dispute, but we have the right to dispute, but we cannot refute once the evidence is out and confirmed. This is from transplantation crimes exposed at the United Nations Council on September 24th, 2019. And this is one of the solutions. You asked me a question. Once more people learn about this they will have no way to hold it in the dark anymore. Just like the Nazis, the Armenian genocide, Pinochet, Slobodan Milosevic. But I want to share with you this, and then I'll share with you with the coalition. But here we go.
Mr. Vice President, the Durban Declaration affirms the urgent need to prevent, combat, and eliminate all forms of trafficking in persons, including organ trafficking. China Tribunal, a People's Tribunal chaired by Sir Geoffrey Nice, considered all available evidence and concluded that forced organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience, including the religious and ethnic minorities of Falun Gong and Uyghurs, had been committed for years throughout China on a significant scale, and that it continues today. This involves hundreds of thousands of victims. Acting on independent legal advice, the tribunal concluded that commission of crimes against humanity against Falun Gong and Uyghurs had been proved beyond reasonable doubt, victim for victim, and death for death, cutting out the hearts and other organs from living, blameless, harmless, peaceable people constitutes one of the worst mass atrocities of this century. Organ transplantation to save life is a scientific and social triumph, but killing the donor is criminal. Government and international bodies must do their duty not only in regard to the possible charge of genocide, but also in regard to crimes against humanity, which the tribunal does not consider to be less heinous. It is the legal obligation of UN member states and the duty of this Council to address this criminal conduct. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
And if you want to learn more, challenge.com. And I can share with you this while we're on the subject. Let's see where the basic files are. Let me see. Is this what we needed? Yes, yeah. So let me just put that down. This is the China Tribunal. Forgive me, just give me a second to show you. Okay, this is the China Tribunal on endtransplantabuse.org. For all the skeptics, like I said, here are all the reports. The China Tribunal, as I'm going to share with you right now, this was a China Tribunal that was headed by the former lead prosecutor of Slobodan Milosevic at the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, Sir Jeffrey Nice, QC. He also conducted with his counsel the Uyghur Tribunal, and they have come up with, since December 2018 and April 2019, 50 fact witnesses, experts, and investigators. And they've concluded that in China, the forced organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience has been practiced for a substantial period of time, involving very substantial number of victims. Now, I wanted to share with you this. This is from the International Tribunal of Natural Justice. This is my delegation. I brought Sasha Stone is sitting there, and the late Robert David Steele is sitting there, who works with Charlie Ward and with Simon Parks and others, talking about particularly child sex abuse. And they invited us to testify in the British Parliament. That day, we had two other testimonies with the British Parliament, and this is the International Tribunal of Natural Justice, an inquiry into human trafficking and child sex abuse. I wanted to share with you the Esquires and Dr. Enver Tohti and Ethan Gutman, all Nobel Peace Prize nominees, sharing them just about 2 minutes of what is going on, particularly to the skeptics out there that think that forced organ harvesting is still not existing. And if I may, Nick?
Please do.
Okay, here we go.
Let me, I'll give you the shortened version of this. And I couldn't agree more that human trafficking is an appalling form of modern slavery. They're estimated to be more slaves today than at any time in human history, as I think we all heard yesterday. Now, people say, why? It's a lack of general awareness. It's poor data. It's insufficient legal systems. Most absent of all is a coordinated international campaign. Responsible national governments worldwide need to act together on this terrible issue with a unified purpose. As you've seen on the projection and comments already made, there's a related scourge of organ pillaging, which we're speaking to obviously today. It's been going on, as you've heard, for about 20 years. In mid-2006, the Coalition to Investigate the Persecution of Falun Gong asked David Matus and I to investigate it. We went into it with open minds. We were, I think, both of us hoping it wasn't going to be true, but we very quickly discovered that it was true. And there's been reference to 50 kinds of evidence. I was a prosecutor for 10 years, so I should know something about evidence. And we came up with our report, a revised report, and then a book called Bloody Harvest. And we've continued to investigate ever since. We concluded that for 41,500 transplants done in the years 2000 to 2005 in China, the only reasonable explanation for sourcing was Falun Gong.
And that's this tribunal can be watched, Nick, on YouTube, and I can share with you the link. But absolutely no doubt that this is going on, and this is killed to order, state sanctioned. This is not again kidney in the bathtub. It hasn't been done before. This kind of mass murdering regime that's killed over 100 million people, actually 500 million people, because of the amount of one-child policy genocide for the unborn children and children who have come out of the womb. I've killed between 300 to 400 million, plus the 100 million deaths, more than 2 world wars combined, the decimation of 5,000 years of Chinese culture, the mass harvesting of innocent people, now the CCP virus, and that's a whole other level of diabolicalness. Colluding with Western politicians, multinational corporations, think tanks, Wall Street, you name it. Funding the consumer market with the institutionalized slavery system of mainland China ever since Bill Clinton sold the NAFTA agreements in 1996, 1995, and through everything, the whole entire manufacturing to China, to communist China, under the Communist Party. So the center stage of this evil and this terror is in China, and it then broadens and branches out to other places of the world.
Well, it's absolutely disgusting with what's going on. It's a disaster. That was a fantastic presentation to make for anyone to watch this and share this video and spread awareness, which is the key. But if I was to ask you, who would need to watch this so that a difference can be made? Maybe it's would it be someone in the military or somebody, a group of people that can, really do something to make a difference? What would you say to that?
I would say anybody who's watching this, whether you're doing big time business in China, be careful, because your money is going to the Chinese Communist Party. It's not going to people. It's going to slave labor, forced labor, and organ harvesting. The world leaders who are listening to this, or government officials, remember, to sign on to genocide is to be complicit with it, regardless if you are the doctor in the camp, a prison guard in the concentration camp, or part of Hitler's high elite or communist regime's high elite. If you are keeping quiet, signing off, or denying that this is existing, that is complicit based on Nuremberg Code, international law, the International Tribunal of Natural Justice, The Hague. And so I hope teachers and professors who have classes of 300 or 400 people in their classes and are doing particularly international human study or policies focusing on China, show this interview with your class. And if I may, Nick, I don't know how much time we have left. I'd like to just go through quickly the websites that people can learn and get the information from, so they can actually show their students or raise awareness to their families or their board, because awareness, like I said, is so important. But even the military as well, who is watching this, we have to do something about this. And again, this is not going around the whole world, ladies and gentlemen. And the particular group that this is going on against is Falun Gong. I would like people to shed more light on the Falun Gong, because they have shed light on many others, the Uyghur Muslims, the House Christians. Not that Falun Gong is better than anybody. I'm just saying that not many people know about this group. And I've been on many shows, I've been on many podcasts, and particularly yours, and I want really people to learn about Falun Gong and voice their support. I'm a Jewish person. My family, the only reason why I came from South Africa, Nick, is because my family, what was ever left of them, after being slaughtered in Nazi Lithuania, occupied Lithuania and Ukraine and Hungary, fled to South Africa. That's where I was born. And I was living under apartheid, the suffering of Black people, the extermination of Black people under apartheid. I moved to America. I became the first person in my family to become an American citizen in the Deep South. And I was very much in tune with the genocide and the communist regime. And I follow a code. To fail to support the good and to fail to expose evil is unacceptable. So as I say again, those who are watching, I really hope that they can bring awareness to their people, to their boards, and to their students. And before we leave, if I can be so kind, I can play one more video and then show the links, if that's okay.
Please do.
Thank you, Nick. And again, I am so honored to be on your show because you are one of the very few great, gentlemen and scholars with your incredible people and audience. And I follow your Telegram religiously. I follow all your videos. And I just love what you're doing, and you're risking it all as well. And a man who risks it all to help and save humanity or do something like James O'Keefe at Project Veritas, be brave, do something, is quite remarkable. So let me share with you a video, and then I can quickly share with you the links, because I don't want to take any more time from you. I know you're very busy, and your audience is very busy. But this is the last one of the videos that I want to show. It's called The Genocide of a Lifetime. I actually worked on this video while I was working while exposing. I connected with the Epoch Times out of New York City, which is a brilliant editorial media outlet, with NTD TV, New Tang Dynasty Television. And I was the only Westerner in the time that had been exposing the Falun Gong, that I linked up and I grouped up with them to create something like this. And I did a little bit of they needed an English translator, so I did this for them. And worked on the project with them. Not this particular video, but I actually wrote a report for it. But I'd like to just share this with you. And here we go. This is what we were talking about in a nutshell: a genocide of a lifetime.
There are no human rights in China, and the most outrageous example of no human rights in China is killing a peaceful community of Falun Gong practitioners and Uyghurs, who are Muslims, and Tibetan Buddhists, and Christians, house Christians, for their organs, kidneys, livers, and so on, and then selling the organs to wealthy Chinese or foreigners, and the people are killed in the process.
The belief that I have, I share with David Kilgore, that organ harvesting is widespread in China, and it is restricted almost exclusively to Falun Gong practitioners. The Falun Gong are to the Chinese regime of today what the Jews were to the Nazis during the war. And we should all take note of this and look at China with new eyes.
There's no evidence that Falun Gong is a cult of any sort. There's no evidence of political action to try and bring down the Chinese government. There's no evidence of anything other than a deep desire to be left alone to practice their spiritual beliefs in peace and to not be locked up and murdered.
David and I have met Falun Gong practitioners in probably 50 countries.
Or even more, maybe.
Okay. All walks of life, all ages, all backgrounds, all education. I've found them to be a wonderful group of people.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with any of that. I mean, Falun Gong, first of all, it's not even an organization because it's a set of exercises with a spiritual foundation. Yeah. Everything's on the internet. You don't pay anything. You don't sign up to anything. You can start whenever you want. You can stop whenever you want. You don't even have to tell anybody you're doing it. Their principles are very simple and ethical, and I mean, all of that is true.
So that was, in a nutshell, what is actually going on.
Wow, it's a disaster. It just goes to show that the cabal don't want people getting together, increasing or lifting their frequencies or their vibration and to becoming more peaceful, because they know that we are all connected in one consciousness. And like the 100th monkey syndrome, if one person behaves in a certain way, even though we don't have that, even if we don't connect to or speak to or go close to other people, that energy that we project spreads because we're all connected. And that's what they're afraid of. And this is a spiritual war. This is what this ultimately is, a spiritual war against good and evil. But Mitchell Gerber, thank you very much for presenting that for us. You've done a fantastic job and you're doing fantastic work and you're very brave yourself too. And it's very admirable. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Yes, I would like to share just 2 or 3 websites where people can actually learn more about it, if I can, Nick.
If you like, I can put the links below in the description so that people can click on them directly. How does that sound?
That sounds wonderful. Yeah. The more people that know about this, the better. My call to action. I don't do this for no money, for no name. I seek no reward. I leave no name. And, I'm a Jewish investigative reporter. And I've put my life on the line because, as I said before, to fail to support what is good and to fail to expose what is evil is unacceptable. It's like raising money for charity. It's like protecting people from harm. And regardless of whether you are Jewish or Christian or Buddhist or atheist, we are all collectively conscious, right? So I think that imagine it was your family, your friends, your colleagues, your loved ones who were rounded up, forcefully blood tested, sent to state-mandated hospitals, your organs colored, your body's wildlife, and you're never seen again and sold for massive profit. Wouldn't you do something? So Nick, with that, I am so grateful to be with you and be a part of this. And yeah, please post the links. I've sent them all to you. And I look forward to a third legendary chat with you soon, my friends.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. And I'll happily put the links below so that people can look and learn more. Thank you very much, Mitchell Gerber, and God bless you. Speak soon. Bye-bye.
God bless. Take care. Thank you, Nick.